Hello, everybody, and welcome back to M&J Games, and welcome to the second episode. Now, I'm really excited for this, as a little nervous too, just with the unique kind of design of this, because this is going to be I'm winging this as I go, obviously. But one thing I noticed is, I'm not making the station. I thought about doing it, and I couldn't get any great pictures of the station, and from what I could see from the POV, it looks pretty cool, but I just want to make this more about the actual coaster. But one thing I did notice that I had a little bit off, and by the way, I changed the coloring. So sorry to not do that in the first episode, because obviously the supports aren't white, is this portion here should actually extend further out, because they've got like this extended building where you've got the station, and then you've got a break here with the transfer track where it would slide across. So that's just something that I recognize it's a little bit off. And then here, this turn right here is not perfect, but it's all good. I mean, I think by looking at this, I think this front part's good. I think this turn's pretty good. I mean, that looks pretty similar to it. This one, if you look from the above view, it's not quite perfect. It does do the dip, so it is pretty good, but it's all good. And then I am happy with this end portion. I think in real life it's a little bit wider. But, as we talked about with the friction and stuff in this game, it's kind of hard to look at that. So let's ride this one last time. So that was the coaster, and I know I've talked about this multiple times, but the friction in this game's not perfect, but I am happy overall with how it turned out, happy with the first hill. So to get started, the way that I'm going to try to approach this is kind of building little bits at a time. And so first thing I need to do is I need to delete this coaster station, because what's going to happen is if I try to, like, you can overlay track, but you can't overlay coaster stations. So now it comes down to Malice Unchained, Steel Vengeance, because Iron Fury is the topper track. And at least from my knowledge, topper tracks are all ground up coasters. I don't think those have been, so I could be wrong about that. But the ones I know that are topper track, Goliath, Outlaw Run, Lightning Rod, and Wildfire and Wallaby Holland are all ground-up coasters, not, so Malice Unchained, do we like those coaster seats or Steel Vengeance? Let's go Malice Unchained, just because Steel Vengeance is a very particular, like everything's obviously themed to Steel Vengeance. So now we need to try, gosh, I hate when this is not perfect. I need to try to get it as close as possible. That's pretty good. Let's see. Yeah, I'm happy with that. I think that's good. So now I'm just going to scoot this over. It's at the right height. Because in theory, you'd want it to be the same height for station platforms and paths and all that stuff. There we go. Perfect. So now I'm just going to set this over here, and we're going to have this go to the front. Now, I'm going to try to make this one episode, but we'll see how this ends up working, because this is something I've never done before, and I'm really excited to try this and see how this turns out. So let's delete the station. So let's keep that piece of track there. So the idea with this is I want to try to have it match the direction as much as possible, because if you actually look at like if you look at Steel Vengeance versus Mean Streak, or any of the ones, Iron Rattler, any of the major RMCs, something that they all have in common is they all essentially align with the original coaster. So that saves RMC a lot of money, or that saves the park and RMC money on support cost, on trying to get this as close as possible. There we go. That'll be good enough. On the cost of purchasing supports and footers and foundations and stuff like that. Because I always thought, okay, they kept it close, but I just watched the POV of Mean Streak because it had been so long since I've been on there for the first time, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's pretty crazy. So if we see here, let's get the, let's turn angle snap off for right now. Track supports off. Standard track, because what I think I'm going to try to do with this first part is actually have a little bit of a kind of one of those almost little pre-drops that they tend to have, where you'll kind of get a little pop of airtime. I'm actually going to do a little bit of an outward bank here, so they have done some of those in the past. So the thing is, I need to make sure I'm getting as close as possible to I think it's pretty. So it's pretty darn close, because you want to make sure that there we go. So now I can do the lift hill. Get the lift hill started, and we're going to do about a 40-degree incline. So it's going to be much steeper. It'll be a little bit bigger of a start. There we go. Let's see, how's this? Okay, so it's not quite aligning properly. So this is going to be a tricky part, trying to make sure we get this as perfect as possible. There we go. Let's keep that at 0. I'm just going to do this for a second just to test and see. So it needs to align. Okay, so just going a little bit to the right. Let's see about this. Okay, no, that's even way too much. All right. So 0% wasn't good enough. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, it's not perfect. Let's see. So let's place this piece. And then if we can't, well, now at this point I'll take 0.13 again. I'm gonna get this. Hold on. All right, so let's just see. 0.4. Okay, so ideally something in between there. Oh, it's like if I could get like 0.8. Okay, let's try this. Put that down to 0. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's not exact. That's very hard to get it perfect. So now we have this. I'm going to do chain lift. And I'm going to, let me look at a picture real quick. If I want to find the lift hill on coasters and see essentially how quick it, like how quick the lift hill kind of starts inclining. So that's what I'm doing just real quick on YouTube. If this ad will end, da-da-da-da. All right, so checking out Steel Vengeance. All right, so it's a pretty quick. I think it's one of those things you never really think about or notice when you're on the coaster. Okay. Let's see. Do we think that's a good height for it? Let's see. Let's maybe do 40 degrees, because I know some lift hills have 45. Now, here's where the tricky part's going to happen. Because if RMC is truly approaching this the way that they've approached essentially every other coaster that they've designed, the issue they're going to come across is they have to follow the supports of the coaster track, which means unless they want to build whole new foundations, they can't go down and then do something. Plus, also with the boundaries of Hershey Park, there's essentially like, at least if I'm looking at this correctly, essentially like something here. There's like a boundary there, and then you got a boundary going this way as well. So now the question becomes, okay, how do we approach this? Do we approach this coaster as the first of its kind to have a twisting drop? But the issue is RMC is going to want to make it steeper. And because of how wide this is, it needs to essentially align with these supports. Okay, so that is pretty quick. Now the other one is, the other option we could essentially do, and this is, I would have to move the lift hill, the start of the lift hill back a little bit for this, but the other option we could essentially do is pulling an I-305 type measure, which I don't know why that's all of a sudden curving. So, pulling like an I-305, which we'd have to move back for this, because RMC has yet to do one of these, and I don't know if they ever will. But then you'd have to kind of turn it out. But even there, like, I mean, that's going to be way too quick of a turn, because if you look here, that's not going to be, I don't feel like it's going to be tight enough of a turn, or that turn's going to be too tight in terms of the amount of G-forces that it's going to pull. So let's just test this, for example, because this is what I was leaning towards, but I want to make sure and test it and see. But then I've got one other option, I feel like. So let's say start test. heat maps. Start with vertical G-force, and then look at the laterals. Yeah, so vertical G's are extremely high right there. So what I would need to do is either not have the drop as steep, and then, I mean, laterals actually aren't bad right there. It's just the vertical G-forces. Whoop! That's actually kind of cool to see. Or the other option is to pull a essentially like twisted timbers and stuff, where you've got it coming along this way. And if I did that, I would have to start it. Yeah, so that's essentially looking at the couple of options we have. And now this is a little bit more of a steep decline than Twisted Timbers and Storm Chaser. So I'm trying to just think through, because I was thinking about this last night while I was trying to sleep. You know what? Let's try to go with the I-305 style, because I feel like RMC is going to really try to do something that they either haven't done yet, or it's just not been a big focus for them yet. So let's redo this part. Let's do a 45-degree lift till, because RMC is known to have 45-degree lift tills. So that has happened. So I feel like they're not going to necessarily try to make this coaster ridiculously tall, because so much of the height of it kind of depends on the height of the initial coaster. All right, so I'm going to need to start it earlier. I was just trying to make sure I was getting the... It's actually... Make sure. Okay, that's good enough. Let's do this. Like I said, starting the lift hill a little bit sooner, because this drop is gonna have to start so we want to give it enough time to kind of level out, or at least somewhat level out. So even then, so what we need to do is we need to have a 45-degree lift hill angle. That might start, yeah. That's too fast. Alright. So let's start a lift till here. You know what issue we're going to run into there is that coaster's going to run into the supports. So you know what? I think we're going to have to go with... Use shorter track pieces now. Let's see. Hold on. Oh, you know what? Hold on. This might end up being just awful. Let's see. Now we're going to go this way. Let's just see if this is even doable. Well, the second part is it's this first drop is just too much. Okay, so like the idea and shaping behind that. So it's almost like an extended version of the one at Six Flags over Georgia. Let's see. So what if let's change this real quick. Why is it doing that? Hold on. All right. So it's this first drop that's too intense. So what if we took this and same thing here, but now we go to 40 degrees instead of the 45 that we were at. Is that still that high? Let's see. Okay. So the lift hill is not as steep. Yeah, vertical G's are still crazy high. Okay, what if I'm trying to think of what we could do here that'd be different. That might actually be kind of cool. Almost have a really high up, like double down like that. Let's see. Sorry, RMC, I'm going against your guidelines, but you know what? We might have to redo part of this if this doesn't quite work, because I did want to stay within the confines of the older track. So this was pretty smooth to begin with. So let's just build out another piece or so, just kind of get an idea of. Oh, you know what? I didn't do banking. I'll say yet. I will. So I think it's one thing I need to do better now is trying to keep it more kind of. Yeah, so the coaster is definitely inching along right there. All right, so let's see this. Let's see how the GForces look. Going around this portion. So if you can keep the G's to 4, I'd be happy with that. Okay. That eliminated a little bit. All right, so maybe need to make it a little bit taller because it definitely loses speed. And let's see. All right. Okay, so let's do. As I said before, this is all learning curve. So let's go through and just do one round of smoothing. Sorry, smoothed out that area. Oops, accidentally did 4 pieces that time. So yeah, I like to do 3 pieces at a time. And then what we'll do is we will delete the, I think it's GCI. So I think Wildcat was actually the first ever coaster that GCI made, I think. So I was trying to get kind of a weird, awkward kind of looking shape or shaping to this part. Because sometimes you'll see that, like there's that part on Steel Vengeance after kind of the first time you go back towards the lift hill after that first inversion. So that's one thing RMC, at least in my opinion, does a good job of, is having these really, really kind of strange shaping sometimes to their, yeah. Now I do realize though, like looking at this, that that's not good. Hold on. That inversion might need to go. So that might be, that probably won't work. So we'll test it, but that's probably not going to work. So it looks bad. And one thing that I kind of realized as I was going throughout this is usually they try to keep around the same height as well. So that was my bad on part of this. We'll see. Alright, let's delete this wooden coaster for a second. And we have that mess of track. Ho ho ho. Yeah, I forgot to smooth out this first part. All right, overall, I'm pretty happy with that. Let's see. Let's look at GForces. Ooh, 5.6. Yeah, let's see what the GForces are. This is gonna be really interesting to see what they do with this layout, because I'm like, I don't know how. Okay, let's see. I mean, it's under 6. Still a little bit higher than. It's usually the more. Let's see. think it's because it is such a tight turn. But just doesn't give that much space. Let's see. 5.66. All right. We'll smooth out a couple other areas first because I'm really happy with this whole area. I think this part maybe should have been elevated a little bit more. Usually their ZeroG rolls have a little bit more of an elevation change to it like that. It's not to say they don't have barrel rolls, but oh yeah, this part's gotta go. I think I could get away with doing a maybe I could get away with that. We'll see. So weird how it does that sometimes with smoothing that out. Alright, then we'll have to go backwards smoothing it. Oops, hold on. Alright, so let's go back. Now, I do want to possibly do custom supports on this for the lift hill. And I think RMC now showed with Gwazi that you're not only going to do those custom supports when you have a ZeroG stall that goes by the lift hill. Because I think up until then, the only two that we had seen like that were Zadra and Goliath, which Goliath is a really underrated RMC coaster. It's still a strange layout compared to other RMCs, so it's not like it's one of my favorite, but it is still a really, really good coaster. And I didn't realize it was topper track, to be honest. I was like, oh, this is not iBox's topper track. So it isn't as smooth as some other ones, but it's still just an awesome, awesome coaster. I mean, that ZeroG Stall is truly amazing because you are truly floating in the air. Like it is a cool sensation. So I wanted to have this almost be like a little double up type. We'll see. We'll adjust that if need be. All right, let's see. What is this going to look like? Well, you know what? We need to get rid of this for a second just so we can actually see the track. Sorry, I accidentally was checking the recording, and that's why I forgot to press turn it to normal speed. But a lot smoother. And a lot of those little kind of little hills. Yeah, I wanted to watch the first drop. And I need to smooth out that area. Let's see. Yeah, so let's look at the GForces real quick. $5.59. Okay, we're getting closer. Getting closer. And the reason why we can't really move this back anymore is because if I have custom supports going here, like it needs to make sure that it's not touching this track portion. What if, I don't know. What if we just try to extend this out just a little bit more? All right, let's... I'm just so shocked that this is... There we go. All right, so one last thing I want to do is, okay, so it lags there a little bit at the end. Okay. So what if we, I don't mind changing friction some. So let's change the friction down to 0.8. And let's check out the speed of the coaster as it goes. So you want to make sure it's keeping up a good speed. I feel like never really getting lower than 30-ish miles per hour. So we'll see. So I got 66 as the highest. Okay, that's a good speed there. 45. In the 30s and 40s, good. 31 is the lowest point there. Good, that stays in the 40s. Now the question is going to be, what about right here? Oh wow, okay, stays right at 30, that's good. That's what I remember Nerd Chacho saying one time is when you start doing this smaller hills and stuff, you want to crest them around 30 miles per hour. Okay. Let's look at the stats. Everything's all green. Look at the results. GForce is good. Biggest drop. So we added some extra feet to the coaster. So where's the number of inversions? Where does it say hill? There we go. Biggest drop, 143 feet. So we added about, a good amount of speed to that. So, because of the length of this, that is it for this episode. In the last episode, I'm going to continue to smooth it out, make any tweaks needed, and create a custom support. But one last thing I want to do before we take a ride is let's go ahead and get rid of the gnarler, and then we're going to ride the coaster like this because it's going to take me a little bit of time to put all these supports back on. So let's go ahead and take a final ride on the coaster, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think about this layout? Is this something that you could realistically see, or what would you do differently? And thank you so much for watching, and I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of your day.